Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could we have the, yeah, thank you? Alright, Mr. LeGrand, where we left off, we were talking about Joe Marcus. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these, but did you ever talk to Mr. Jackson about this trust account?
I don't recall a specific conversation with Mr. Jackson about this trust account. I do recall telling Mr. Jackson about what we were doing. That is, what I and the other lawyers were doing, and how we were using proceeds from the Fox video to help pay for the various legal and other services.
So Mr. Jackson was being kept apprised about these expenditures?
Objection. Misstates the evidence.
Overruled. You may answer.
Not in detail, line by line. This was a conversation that, we are utilizing these proceeds in this fashion.
So certainly, when you made a major expenditure, you got some clearance from Mr. Jackson. Is that fair to say?
I don't recall getting a specific authority from Mr. Jackson for any particular expenditure.
Okay.
He indicated to me he was satisfied with the way things were being handled, that he had confidence in Mr. Konitzer, Mr. Weisner, and the lawyers, and the people that were working at this time, and he wanted us to continue working.
Alright, moving down the list just a little bit, I'll point out the, let's see. There appears to be another $750,000. Maybe that's the first. Let me pull this down a little bit. Okay, so we've got an incoming wire from Fox for $750,000. We had another incoming wire from Fox for $750,000. Was that also on the Michael Jackson Take 2 video?
Yes.
And then, finally, we had another incoming wire for $1,500,000 on February 22, 03. Was that also from the Take 2 video?
Yes.
So this trust account essentially controlled the income and cash outflows for the Fox video, the Michael Jackson 2. Is that fair to say? I mean, this trust account reflects income and expenses for the Fox video that's known as Michael Jackson Take 2.
It reflects the money coming in from Fox. It reflects expenditures going out, some of which were expenses relating to Take 2, some of which were expenses relating to, the Granada litigation, the engagement of Mr. Garrigus, etc. So it's not all expenses relating to Take 2.
Okay, moving down a little bit, we see, let's see here, an outgoing wire to Ken H. Finkelstein, $560,000. What was that for?
That was at the instruction of Mr. Konitzer and Mr. Weisner.
What was it for?
Mr. Finkelstein, as an attorney, was going to assume the primary responsibility for the rest of these proceeds.
Okay, and did you talk to Mr. Finkelstein?
I believe the answer is yes. I don't remember the specific conversation, but I know I did have a conversation or two with Mr. Finkelstein.
Okay, did you ever meet Mr. Finkelstein?
No.
There's another outgoing wire here, 3/25, $1,400,000 for Mr. Finkelstein. Do you know what that was for?
Same as the 560.
So it was the understanding that Mr. Finkelstein was going to undertake the management of this $560,000 disbursement and $1,400,000 disbursement on behalf of your client, correct?
Objection. Misstates the evidence. Foundation.
I'm asking if that's the case.
That's the way I understood it from Mr. Konitzer.
The objection's overruled.
Sorry.
And we have, moving down, we also have, just as an example, another sizable incoming wire, $566,000, from Alfred Haber. Mr. Haber is the foreign rights distributor for the Take 2 video, isn't that true?
Yes.
So there was $3 million from Fox, plus additional hundreds of thousands of dollars that came in from foreign sources, correct?
Ultimately, yes, it came from Haber.
Marketing the video overseas?
Yes.
And everything's accountable. In other words, I should say everything is accounted for. Is that fair to say, in your basic accounting here, in terms of dollars and cents?
I think the numbers add up, yes.
And you sent this to Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
We no longer need the Elmo, Your Honor. Thank you. Mr. LeGrand, are you aware of whether or not the covenants and conditions of the Bank of America loan allow Mr. Jackson to funnel monies such as these that were held in the Fire Mountain account in the manner in which they were disbursed?
Objection. Foundation. Relevance.
He said he reviewed these documents.
Foundation. Sustained.
Did you review the covenants and conditions of the Bank of America loans?
Eventually, yes.
And those loans prevent Mr. Jackson from having a company like Fire Mountain, LLC, which would effectively conceal funds coming into his possession, profits. Those covenants and conditions are in violation of that loan, aren't they?
Objection. Foundation. Relevance. Court order.
Foundation. Sustained.
Do you know if the covenants and conditions of the Bank of America loan has a proscription, a rule against Mr. Jackson engaging in a company, starting an LCC like Fire Mountain as a profit enterprise? Do you know of that?
Objection. Foundation. Relevance.
Overruled. You may answer.
I don't know today. I would have to look at the loan covenants. They were pretty detailed.
You have no recollection of whether there's a loan covenant that prevents that?
The company in question was a subsidiary of MJJ Productions. It was not a new company started by Michael Jackson. It's really a complex question, sir, and I would need, to give you a proper answer, I would need to review the document.
Did you form Fire Mountain, LLC, to hide funds from the Bank of America?
Objection. Foundation. Relevance.
Foundation. Sustained.
All right, tell me, who is Royalty Advance Funding?
I'm not sure who Royalty Advance Funding is. But I met a person who I believe was associated with Royalty Advance Funding and discussed a proposal for a pledge of royalties, just as the name suggests, a pledge of royalties in exchange for a loan.
And that individual's name was Parviz?
Yes.
All right.
That's right.
If I may approach, Your Honor.
Yes.
Mr. LeGrand, I show you People's Exhibit number 422 in a notebook. It appears to have multiple pages. Have you ever seen the letterhead that is depicted on the first page of that group of documents?
I have no specific recollection of this letterhead. It's possible I've seen it, but I don't.
Okay, I'm showing you page 2 of that document. There appears to be a signature in the lower right-hand corner. Do you recognize that signature?
Looks like Michael Jackson's signature.
Are you familiar with Michael Jackson's signature?
Not extensively, but I've seen him sign documents, yes.
On numerous occasions?
Reasonably often.
Looking at the third page, there appears to be a signature at the bottom of the page. Does that appear to be Michael Jackson's signature?
No foundation, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Do you feel that you can recognize Michael Jackson's signature when you see it? I'm not asking you as an expert. I'm just asking you for a personal opinion.
I think so.
How many times have you seen Mr. Jackson sign documents?
Half dozen to a dozen maybe.
How many documents have you seen with Michael Jackson's signature on them?
More than a dozen.
100?
I would say shy of 100, sir.
Something close to 100, would that be fair?
It could be. We had many documents that I looked at over a period of time.
Alright, I'll resubmit the same question to you. On page 3, the lower right-hand corner, does that appear to be Michael Joe Jackson's signature?
Objection. Foundation.
Overruled. You may answer.
It appears to be his signature.
Alright, the next page, also Mr. Jackson's signature?
Yes.
There are initials on the following page. Have you ever seen Mr. Jackson's initials?
Yes.
Do those appear to be his initials?
Yes.
Same objection. Foundation.
Overruled.
The following page, another signature. Does that appear to be Michael Jackson's signature?
Yes.
I'm skipping ahead one page. Does that appear to be Michael Jackson's signature on that page?
It certainly could be. It's somewhat different than the others, though.
Does he often sign his name a little differently?
I've seen documents that vary somewhat in the size of the signature. I've seen it, take up a third of a page, and the loops are sometimes a little different. I'm not an expert in handwriting, sir.
In reviewing Mr. Jackson's financial condition, did it come to your attention that he ever possessed or was loaned money by Royalty Advance Funding?
Objection. Beyond the scope. Relevance. Court order.
Sustained.
You said that you were thinking about obtaining a loan, or there was some discussion with Mr. Parviz about obtaining a loan on Mr. Jackson's behalf from Royalty Advance Funding?
Same objection. Relevance. Court order.
Sustained.
If Mr. Jackson had obtained a loan, I'll move on. Alright, let's talk about some of the parties. Did you meet, I believe you mentioned that you met Mark Schaffel?
Yes, sir.
And where did you first meet Mark Schaffel?
At his residence in Calabasas.
Okay. Did you ever have a discussion with Mark Schaffel about releases?
Yes.
Did you ever have a discussion with Mark Schaffel about a script of questions that was to be asked the Arvizo family, or the Arvizos?
I don't remember a script discussion.
Did you ever discuss with Mr. Schaffel matters over the phone?
Yes.
Did you ever have a phone conversation with Mr. Schaffel where you discussed questions which might be propounded to the Arvizo family during their filming for the Take Two video?
I don't remember a conversation with Mark Schaffel where I enumerated a list of questions or we discussed specific questions that should or shouldn't be asked to the Arvizos. We had, Mr. Jackson. We had engaged Mark Garrigus to deal with anything that had relevance to potential criminal inquiries or inquiries with regards to, custody of children, because in that original spout of publicity there were people saying, his children should be removed from his custody, etc. And, I'm a corporate lawyer. So my primary mission was to engage Mr. Garrigus, or a part of the mission was to engage someone like Mr. Garrigus to provide advice and assistance with respect to those types of matters. And to me, largely, the matters relating to whether the Arvizos should be in a video or anything of that sort was more Mr. Garrigus's venue than mine.
Okay. My question is, did you ever, maybe we should start it this way. Did you ever have a discussion with Mark Schaffel about the Arvizos?
Yes.
How many times did you discuss the Arvizos with Mark Schaffel?
I don't know. I mean, several.
More than 5?
I'm not sure.
You previously testified that the concern from the media about Michael Jackson sleeping with young boys was one of the major concerns. Is that a fair paraphrasing of your testimony?
I don't know. It was certainly significant.
And was it also a subject of great interest with the media, the subject of Gavin Arvizo in particular?
I'm not sure that I can summarize what the media's, where their attention was or wasn't focused at that time.
You never had a discussion with any member of the PR team that said, Gavin Arvizo is somebody everybody wants to know about, something along those lines?
It's possible, but I don't recall that specific conversation.
Well, you saw the Take Two video, right?
Yes, I did.
Was it obvious to you that the world would want to know who this young boy is?
In the Take Two video?
I'm sorry. I'm misspeaking. In the Martin Bashir video. Was it obvious to you that the young boy in that video, Gavin Arvizo, was going to be the subject of inquiry by the media? Was that obvious to you?
Yes.
And you said you had these discussions with Mr. Schaffel, several, regarding the Arvizos. What did you talk to Mr. Schaffel about the Arvizos?
I expressed to Mr. Schaffel my concern that we needed, on Mr. Jackson's behalf, to find a way to wean the Arvizos away from Mr. Jackson.
Did you ever have any discussion with Mr. Schaffel about the Arvizos appearing in the Take Two video?
I know I spoke to Mr. Schaffel about doing some videotaping, but as to whether or not that would ultimately be included in the Take Two, no, I was not part of the editing. I played no role in the editing of the film for the Take Two video.
But you did talk to Mr. Schaffel about it, correct?
In general terms, yes.
Did you ever talk to Mark Garrigus about it?
I know I had conversations with Mark Garrigus about the Take Two video, the rebuttal footage that was being included. I don't know that I specifically had a conversation with Mark about the Arvizos being included or not in that video.
Did you ever talk to Mr. Jackson about the Take Two video?
Yes.
Did you ever talk to him about the Arvizos being included in it?
No.
You were aware that the Arvizos were perceived as key players in the rehabilitation of Michael Jackson in the Take Two video, weren't you?
Objection. Misstates the evidence. No foundation.
Sustained.
Weren't you aware that the Arvizos could play a critical role in the Take Two video?
Objection. Misstates the evidence.
It's a question. I'm not.
They weren't in it, Your Honor.
Overruled. Do you understand the question? Do you want it read back?
Please.
Weren't you aware that the Arvizos could play a critical role in the Take Two video?
I don't remember that I or other members of the legal team and the PR team, I don't remember a discussion where it was said, these are critical people and we have to have them included in the video. My focus in terms of the Take Two was the Bashir outtakes that Hamid had, because I believe, as presented in Take Two, that those revealed Martin Bashir to have been deceptive and perhaps at least less than forthcoming in his characterization in the Granada piece. That, to me, was really the critical element of Take Two.
But that isn't what the media was upset about, was it? They were upset about Gavin Arvizo and sleeping with children, true?
It's hard for me to answer questions about what the media was upset about, I'm sorry.
Didn't you read the newspapers at that time?
Sure. I read some newspapers at that time.
Did you follow the internet at that time?
When I had time, I tried to follow what was being put out by the media.
Okay. And one of the things that the media was clamoring about is Gavin Arvizo and Michael Jackson sleeping with boys, true?
I don't remember how much of it was about Gavin Arvizo. There was certainly a lot of fuss about the sleeping with boys.
You're aware that there was a press release which indicated Janet Arvizo was going to be in the Take Two video, weren't you?
I might have been. I don't recall that press release today.
Well, you're aware that Brad Lackman Productions expected Janet Arvizo to be in that video, aren't you?
I don't know what Brad Lackman Productions expected or did not expect.
Did you provide your file on Michael Jackson to anybody involved in this case?
Yes.
Who?
I delivered my files to the then defense attorneys back in, last year, to the Catton Muchin law firm in particular.
Okay. Did you meet with Steve Cochran?
Yes.
Did you have a conversation with him?
Yes.
Did you converse about the facts as far as your involvement in this part of Michael Jackson's life, your capacity as an attorney?
Yes.
Your Honor, there was a period of privilege and then it was waived.
I'm sorry. I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. There was a period where his communications were privileged and then we waived it.
I understand.
So I can't speak for Mr. Cochran, but I can speak for myself.
Maybe I'm not getting the significance. Do you want to approach and...
Sure.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm not understanding it. Discussion held off the record at sidebar. Go ahead.
Thank you. How many meetings did you have with Mr. Cochran?
I think it was 2. It might have been 3. But I think it was 2.
And did you turn over your complete files?
Best of my knowledge, yes.
Did you remove any documents from those files?
I don't recall removing any documents, no, sir.
Is it possible you removed some files, some of those documents?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
I'll strike that. Did the documents that you turned over to Mr. Cochran include billing statements?
I don't know.
Did it include your personal notes?
I don't know. I mean, I turned over, I think it was, 5 boxes. It was multiple boxes of documents.
Well, is it fair? Go ahead and finish.
Yeah, I'm not sure what all was in there.
Is it fair to say those documents in their complete form would contain a number of pages of personal notes that you took during your representation of Mr. Jackson?
I don't know. I'd have to look through the boxes and see what's in there. We had files in numerous places. I had lawyers, sometimes we had 6 different lawyers in my firm working on Michael Jackson related matters.
I'm asking about your personal notes. You do write personal notes when you're representing a client, correct?
Often.
And you also have phone logs, true?
I'm not sure what you mean by a phone log, sir.
Well, don't you charge by the hour?
Yes.
So you have billable hours, right?
Yeah, I keep timesheets, yes, sir.
When you're on the phone dealing with the client's matters, you're billing for it, correct?
Generally, yes.
So you keep notes of that?
Yeah, I keep timesheets, yes.
So otherwise, you can't bill for it?
Yes, sir.
And your complete files should include all those timesheets, correct?
I don't remember whether the timesheets were included or not. My timesheets generally are converted into an electronic billing statement. And so I don't generally keep my handwritten. I don't even know where they go sometimes. I give them to a secretary.
When you talk to your client over the phone, isn't it part of an attorney's duties to keep detailed notes of what his client is informing him to do so he can go back and refer to those notes in case there is some kind of conflict?
Yeah, no, it's prudent practice to keep notes, and I do keep notes. I just don't know whether the notes ended up in what was delivered to Mr. Cochran's law firm or not.
Okay, I guess my next question is, where are your notes?
I don't know. I moved from Hale Lane, and I honestly don't know where those notes are. I'd have to go to Las Vegas and look.
You have no idea where your notes are concerning personal conversations that you had with Michael Jackson when you represented him?
No, I'm really not. I know I have. Some of my notes are in a couple of boxes that I have because files moved with me to my new law firm.
So are you saying that the files that you provided to Steve Cochran are incomplete and that you withheld some of the documents, including personal notes?
I don't know whether they include my personal notes or not. I would be pleased to look through what Mr. Cochran has and make that assessment. I don't know today. That was close to, 9 months ago.
Did you just testify that you have in your possession some personal notes in your new office?
Yes, I have some of my notes.
From the Michael Jackson case?
Oh, I don't know whether they're from the Michael Jackson case or not.
Did you ever perceive the Arvizo family as a liability to Michael Jackson?
I perceived the Arvizo family as a potential liability to Mr. Jackson.
And Mr. Jackson engaged in a lawsuit against Granada, correct?
Yes.
And you desired to have the Arvizos join in that matter, isn't that true?
It was not my personal decision and desire that they be included. I had, engaged some very prominent, reputable barristers, solicitors, lawyers, to evaluate the best approach to suing Granada, and there was certainly consideration that the claims against Granada could be enhanced if the Arvizos were included as complainants.
No release was ever obtained for Gavin Arvizo in the Martin Bashir film, was there?
I don't believe so. I agree with you, and that's my belief. There was never a release to Granada.
And are you aware that Michael Jackson arranged to have Gavin, Star, and his sister come to Neverland Ranch without their mother to film that segment of the Martin Bashir video?
Objection. Foundation.
Sustained.
Are you aware that Gavin was filmed as part of the Martin Bashir video?
Yes. I've seen the Martin Bashir video and Gavin was in it.
And Martin Bashir filmed Gavin talking about his cancer, correct?
Yes.
And as far as you know, his mother never authorized Mr. or Gavin Arvizo to appear in that video.
Objection. Foundation.
Sustained.
Isn't that what you litigated with Granada? The fact that, one of the facts that you were litigating involved Gavin's, or the failure to obtain a release from Gavin or his mother. Isn't that one of the issues that you sought to bring to bear on Granada concerning this lawsuit?
Again, I have trouble with the lawsuit and the complaints before the Standards Board, the Broadcasting Board. I know for certain that was a concern and a claim made in the complaint to the Broadcasting Standards Board. I just don't remember whether that was also in the litigation.
Did Michael Jackson express any concern about having Gavin's face blanked out before the airing of the Martin Bashir video?
Objection. Beyond the scope. Relevance.
Overruled. You may answer.
Michael generally was concerned about the images of the children, not just his children, but the children.
I'm asking you if he ever expressed specifically a concern about having having Gavin Arvizo's face blanked out in that film.
I don't recall that, Mr. Jackson making such a specific statement to me.
Was it something you attempted to negotiate with Granada?
I don't know.
Did it occur to you when you saw that video that Gavin's appearance in that video could be quite traumatic to a 13-year-old boy?
Objection. Foundation.
Sustained.
Did you have any concern about Gavin Arvizo in terms of having his face blotted out on the Martin Bashir video?
I think the subject, and I'm not certain. I think the subject came up in one of the teleconferences with the UK team. We were on a very short timeline to present a demand to Granada. The film was supposed to air on Monday, and we were trying to organize ourselves as the legal representatives over that weekend.
I'm going to object to the narrative.
Sorry.
All right. Sustained.
At some time in your attempts to keep the Arvizo family on board with this lawsuit, did you offer Janet Arvizo money?
I don't know. I don't remember offering her money. I only spoke with her once or twice. But I remember there were discussions about providing money for the Arvizos. And it wasn't just, for the video. It was goodwill and.
Janet Arvizo was never paid a dime for the video, isn't that true?
What video?
The video that she made, that was taken of her by Hamid and Shaffel.
I don't know.
Okay,
I'm not aware of anything.
Okay, there was never any intention to give her money, as far as you know, for her appearance in that video. Is that fair to say?
There was. I had a conversation with Mark Garrigus at one point about doing something economically to help the Arvizos. Whether it was getting them an apartment with, prepaid rent, some sort of economic accommodation to them.
I'm talking about the video.
I do not recall any specific conversation of a payment for the appearance in the video.
And did you not offer Janet Arvizo, through her attorney, Mr. Dickerman, $25,000 to stay on as plaintiffs in the Granada lawsuit?
Yes, I did.
You do recall that now?
I do recall that, yeah.
You also offered to take care of all the attorney's fees in terms of litigating that lawsuit, in addition to giving her $25,000. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I'm not sure it was the lawsuit. I think that was the Broadcasting Standards Board complaint.
Okay.
Okay.
These were both litigations over some kind of money damages, is that fair to say?
No, it's not fair to say. The Broadcasting Standards Board complaint process is not an economic reward process. That is, if you are successful in the complaint, there is no damage award.
What's the outcome?
Granada gets if a complaint is upheld, the broadcaster is censured, or I believe there's a potential for fines, but it's very rare.
Okay, so you offered Janet Arvizo money because you wanted Granada censured, is that true?
We wanted to, as a strategic matter, we wanted to maintain both complaints before the Broadcasting Standards Board, because we viewed that as positive leverage in the lawsuit.
Okay, and all positive leverage aside, Janet Arvizo did not want Michael Jackson's money, did she?
I don't know what Janet Arvizo did or didn't want.
It was turned down. Your offer was turned down, isn't that true?
Well, that's true.
Okay, would it be positive leverage to keep Gavin, I guess, and Janet, the Arvizo family, in that lawsuit because they were perceived as people who were wronged in the filming of that video? Isn't that fair to say?
It was leverage because it was a good, strong, colorable claim in front of the Broadcasting Standards Board.
Do you disagree with what I said, that they were perceived to be people who were wronged by that action?
I don't know how they were perceived. I know we crafted a complaint and filed a complaint that made allegations to that effect. I can't answer about perceptions. I'm sorry.
Well, you perceived it to be a situation where the Arvizos had leverage, additional leverage in this lawsuit because they suffered from it. Isn't that true? Or do you disagree with that?
It was, again, I don't recall their participation in the lawsuit. This was a complaint before the Broadcasting Standards Board, and there were 2 complaints filed. Originally there was 1 complaint filed, and the Broadcasting Standards Board said, no, this is wrongly pled, and the Arvizo's complaint has to be a separate and distinct complaint from Mr. Jackson's complaint. So we filed a complaint. The UK lawyers filed a complaint on behalf of the Arvizos before the Broadcasting Standards Board. Parallel, there is a lawsuit going on in a court in England.
I'm going to object to the narrative. I would just ask you, I don't want to quibble about lawsuits versus complaints, okay? It's the semantics. I want to know.
Move to strike counsel's comments.
Just trying to express my question.
It's stricken.
Okay. I just want to know that when an individual files a complaint with the Broadcasting Standards Commission, is that the name?
I think it's a board.
Okay. They don't have a complaint unless they've been wronged in some fashion. Am I right in that or am I wrong?
The complaint alleged that Granada acted wrongly towards the Arvizos.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Now, as far as Mr. Konitzer and Mr. Weisner's involvement with Mr. Jackson, you were concerned about $960,000, you said, that was.
I think
that was disbursed to these 2 gentlemen, correct?
Yes. I think it was 965, yes.
Okay, 965. And you informed Mr. Jackson of that, true?
Yes.
And after you informed him of that, Mr. Jackson fired you, is that true?
Yes.
And one of the things that you did on your own was to investigate all of the people in Mr. Jackson's inner circle?
Yeah, I don't know about all, but
some of the people?
Quite a few people, yes.
Okay, and you informed Mr. Jackson of that conduct, that you did that on your own, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, actually, I think my partner, Mr. Gibson and I think we informed Mr. Jackson that we wanted to conduct background investigations on various people. I'm not sure we gave him an entire list, but we got general approval to engage an investigative team and conduct some background investigations.
Okay, and he didn't fire any of the people that you did the background checks on, did he?
Objection. Foundation.
Sustained.
Do you know if he fired any of the people that he did the background checks on? That you did the background checks on, excuse me.
Objection. Vague as to time.
Sustained.
Do you know if he fired any of the people that you did the background checks on within, say, a couple of months after you did the background checks, or after you delivered that information to Mr. Jackson?
I'm not aware that anyone was fired as a result of the investigative reports.
Okay. And
Counsel. We have an issue we have to take up. I'm just wondering how much longer you have with this witness.
I don't think I'm going to finish this afternoon. I don't have a lot left, but it's more than 8 minutes.
All right, then we'll stop now. So we'll take up the other issue. You may step down. And the jury, I'll excuse you until tomorrow morning. I'll see you at 8:30. Remember the admonition. All right, counsel. I've been told there's an issue you wish to take up.
There is. Could we ask? Mr. Kopp is a lawyer who's waiting outside. Could we ask that he be?
What's his name?
Kopp. Shep Kopp. With the court's permission, I'll wait until he gets in here so he can hear everything. Your Honor, Mr. Kopp is with Mr. Garrigus' law firm and he is here representing Mr. Garrigus, my understanding. I have given to the bailiff an original subpoena and return thereon, showing that Mr. Garrigus was subpoenaed to appear tomorrow. And I would point out to the court that we had earlier subpoenaed him and had hoped to call him today. Today, being Thursday, it turns out that he is in a jury trial. The jury trial goes Monday through Thursday. He indicated that the judge was not willing to let him off for the purpose of being here today, and so therefore we resubpoenaed him for tomorrow. That's the subpoena that the court will have momentarily. I think your clerk or your secretary is being kind enough to make an extra copy for us. Mr. Garrigus has been struggling with the duty to appear because, being in trial, he scheduled a number of things, including a preliminary hearing tomorrow in another court. I had asked him to please clear that and indicated that we would inform this court of his need to be here in case the judges wanted to call Your Honor, or vice versa, in order to clear that. Thank you. And I'll just file the original, if we could, please, with the clerk. Thank you. And a copy to counsel. And another copy for Mr. Kopp. To cut through all the nonsense and get right down to the bottom line, we really need him tomorrow at 8:30 or we need him Monday at 8:30. We really cannot put it off any longer. Mr. Kopp has indicated that, and, in fact, Mr. Garrigus told me on the phone this morning that he would rather come on the 26th, or June something or other. It does not work, and we've tried to accommodate him, and I understand his situation, but we just need to do something. I believe that if this court specifically orders him to be here absolutely on Monday, that may help him clear his calendar. Or you could order him tomorrow. But we are asking to enforce the subpoena for either tomorrow or Monday. And I gather what Mr. Kopp will tell you is that probably Monday is better than tomorrow, but we'll live with that. But we do need to enforce it somehow or another. I thought we should bring it to your attention. We do not want to be here having to have a body attachment issued and go through all that unnecessarily. And if this court's order or specific instructions to Mr. Kopp or a call to a judge or willingness to receive a call to clear this up, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Do you want to say anything, Mr. Kopp?
I suppose I should, Your Honor. I thought maybe we could resolve this maybe through a phone call from Your Honor to the trial court in Orange County.
They can't hear you. You have to speak into a microphone.
I'm sorry. Good afternoon, Your Honor. I thought maybe this could be resolved by way of a phone call from Your Honor to the trial court in Orange County, and I have those phone numbers, and maybe this can all be worked out. We're doing our best to accommodate the court. The subpoena was just served yesterday. Obviously, there are many other matters scheduled, so we're trying to comply.
Let me see the subpoena.
Your Honor, I'd point out this is our second subpoena.
As I understand, the subpoena is for tomorrow. So I'll order him to appear here at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow morning in accordance with the subpoena.
Well, may I, if that is what the court is going to do, I guess I would like to be heard on that and just make it known that Mr. Garrigus did have. There was 2 matters scheduled in Van Nuys, one of which is a custody matter. Those matters have been put over numerous times. And there's a preliminary hearing scheduled.
Now you know how citizens feel in this community and every community in the state when they're called away from their employment by attorneys in courts.
Now
we have a lawyer who wants special accommodation. The answer is no. He's been subpoenaed. There's no motion to quash. I expect him here at 8:30 tomorrow morning.
Your Honor.
That will give me time to get the warrant out when he doesn't appear, so he'll be here Monday for sure. Because I expect him to be here tomorrow morning.
Well, I don't mean to ask for special treatment, Your Honor, but what I do want to ask for is professional courtesy. And I think subpoenaing somebody 2 days before they're scheduled to appear is not sufficient notice, particularly given the fact that everyone in this courtroom, I believe, is aware of the fact that Mr. Garrigus has been in this trial and has numerous matters scheduled. So I don't mean.
We're aware, you know, that he's a very busy attorney. It's the same with any citizen who's subpoenaed. It's the same with the jurors that are called to testify. Now, the question is, does the present employment of the person overcome the immediacy of the subpoena? And it's always the immediacy of the subpoena that overcomes. It doesn't. It's no different than if we subpoenaed a deputy sheriff or a mechanic, or a child victim. You know, this is a subpoena he has to obey. And, you know, I'm sure you'd be delighted if you were the attorney asking your subpoena to be enforced. So.
Well, if I was the attorney, I would have served it more than 2 days before the court date, but I'm not the attorney. But that being said, I will convey the court's order to Mr. Garrigus.
Thank you. All right, I do want to see 2 of the attorneys in chambers for a moment. That would be Mr. Mesereau and Mr. Snedden, with the court reporter.
Judge, do you plan to come back out?
No, I'm not going to come back out.
Thank you.
This will just take a minute.